What is up, guys? It is the Turtle Girl. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about the running costs to keep a pet turtle and kind of how much that costs on like a daily, monthly, yearly basis, I guess. This is definitely just an estimate based on my own experience, and we're not talking about setup costs here, kind of just the running costs of a turtle tank. So in order to kind of figure this out, we're going to use some math, kind of just to see how much am I actually spending to run my turtle tank. This is a great thing to know if you're like trying to convince parents or a roommate to get a turtle, so that if they say, well, what about electricity? What about water? What is that going to cost us? You have a way to find out how much your running cost will be for your turtle tank. So with that, make sure to subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and let's get started. Okay, so running costs. What are the things that go into the day-to-day taking care of a turtle? Of course, you have food. You have the electricity it takes to run the equipment. You have the water that you have to change. And then finally, you kind of just have a budget for like decorations, equipment failure, all of that. So let's go ahead and just start with that. I think perhaps the easiest thing to start with calculating is food. So your turtle is going to be eating food, and you're going to need to buy new food depending on how quickly it finishes this. So for me personally, I have 3 or 4 different types of pellets that I feed to my turtle. That lasts for, I would say, about a year. Maybe even a little bit more, because I don't feed my turtles every single day. I don't find myself running out of food and having to go buy all that often. Typically, I budget $30 to $50 a year. It kind of just depends on what food I end up purchasing. But really, you just want to look at how much food does your turtle consume and what are you paying for that. And this is something you will only really find out once you've had the turtle and you kind of have a routine. But for the sake of just guesstimating, let's say I budget $40 a year for food. We'll come back to those numbers in a second, but that is just the ballpark estimate for right now. There are also things like treats that I may choose to spend. So let's say maybe I budget $10 to $15 for treats for the turtle. So let's say our budget for food in total is $50 for the entire year. That is how much we spend. Okay, great. So that is food taken care of. Electricity. Now this one is kind of complicated. Basically, in order to figure out how much your electricity is costing, you have to A, look at the equipment you're using and the wattage that it is. 2, how long is that equipment running? And so things you're going to be counting wattage for is stuff like your heaters, filters, and then your basking lighting. And so for this tank specifically, I did this a little while ago. My filter takes 12 watts and it runs for 24 hours. So that's 288 watt hours. My light is 6 watts and it's on for 10 hours. And so I'm not going to go through all of these. Basically what you do is you take the amount of watts, you multiply it by the amount of hours that's on. This will give you with a number that's watt hours. So how much energy you're using within the course of time that you are running that device. I'll kind of just show you here what mine looks like. You can see that I have the amount of watts that the device uses multiplied by the hours, and that gives me a number with watt hours at the end. And so for just this tank alone, it came out to me to be about 1,500 watt hours. From there, you actually have to look at what your area or county or state or whatever, how much do they charge for electricity. So typically this is measured in something called kilowatt hours. So if you know anything about the metric system, a kilo is basically just 1,000 times bigger than a regular whatever you're at. So basically a kilowatt is 1,000 watts. Does that make sense? Keep following me here, okay? I promise there's not too much brain power after this. So if a kilowatt is 1,000 watts and I'm using 1,500 or 1,500 watt hours to power my fish tank for an entire day, then I'm using 1.5 kilowatt hours. And that is how you would be charged for your electricity bill. So I know for my area where I am in Washington, and I don't know if it's by county or by state, you just have to look that up, but for me, I pay 9 cents per kilowatt hour that I use. So now with this information, I know I pay 9 cents per kilowatt hour, and per day I use 1.5 kilowatt hours to power my tank. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply that 1.5 kilowatt hours times the 9 cents per day, and that will give you a number, which is 9 times 1.5 is 13.5. I'm getting charged 13.5 cents, or I mean if you want to round up, 14 cents per day to run my tank. In order to find out how much that costs for a year, guess what I'm going to multiply that by? How many days are there in a year? 365, or 366 if it is a leap year. So we're going to go ahead and multiply 13.5 times 366. That's going to give me a big number. But keep in mind this number is in cents, so we're going to divide that number by 100 because there's 100 cents in a dollar. And now we have this number. This number is $49.41. And that is how much money, supposedly, in theory, it costs to run my fish tank per year. So look guys, you use math in real life. How much of a shocker is that? And so that is how you can find out how much your energy costs per year to run a turtle tank. Now what about water? Water is a little bit more complicated because with your water bill, for us at least in Washington, we pay a bi-monthly flat fee and then we're charged like about $4, $3.81 for 100 cubic feet of water, which is equal, it says here, to 748 gallons. So say that you are changing water every other week and you're doing a 50% water change on a 20-gallon tank. So first of all, we got to figure out how much water you're changing. If you're changing 50% of 40 gallons, you are changing 20 gallons of water. Now keep that 20 gallons in your head. And now let's figure out how many water changes per year are we doing. If we're changing every other week, or once every 2 weeks, if you want to put it that way, and there are 52 weeks in a year, then you will divide 52 by 2, you get 26, and that means you're doing 26 water changes every single year. Go ahead and multiply that by how many gallons you're changing, which is 20 gallons, so 20 times 26 is 520 gallons of water per year that you are changing. That's even less than the 748 gallons, that is 100 cubic feet of water. Which, if you might remember from earlier, in Washington we pay $4 for, plus whatever the flat fee is. So for the water itself, aside from the flat fee, I know that I am only paying less than $4 for my water. Now, water is pretty cheap in Washington. We're not called the Evergreen State for nothing. It rains a good deal here, so I guess that's why water's cheap. I don't really know. But basically that's how much I pay in addition to the flat fee of the bi-monthly water bill, which is everything else. Dishes, showers, running your water to brush your teeth at night, all of that. And so I wouldn't really know the best way to go about calculating your flat fee. I mean, you could look at how much water you use for your fish tank in that bi-monthly period, and then you could just take that percentage and say, okay, my water usage for my turtle tank is, I don't know, 10%, 8% of my bi-monthly water usage, and then you take 10% of that flat fee and say, okay, that's what I'm allocating towards this turtle tank. Kind of complicated. I'm sorry that I can't really make it more straightforward than that for you, but I will say that for me, water is almost kind of insignificant. I mean, if I really had to tell you a number, I would probably say ballpark, maybe if I was actually looking at that statistic, I would probably budget $20 to $30 for water alone. I mean, I guess you can include dechlorinator and stuff in there, really, but typically you buy one bottle of dechlorinator and that can last you a good long while, and it's maybe like $10. So let's just say, for the sake of this, maybe you're spending $30 for water. So we've got food, electricity, water. What else do we have to spend on our turtle for running costs? For me, I like to budget maybe $40 to $50 for decorations in case I want to change something up, I want to do something new. So that's just a straight up $50 I say. That is what I'm going to allocate in my budget for this next year for the turtle tank should I want to change something up. So that's that. There is also, what if my equipment fails, or what if something happens that I need to buy something to fix. And so just for general, like, equipment needs or like filter stuff, any of that kind of thing, I also budget maybe like $30 to $50 in case I need to buy new filter media, or in case I need to, I don't know, get a new heater, just to kind of have that in your budget so that if something happens, you know, oh, I already have these funds allocated for the turtle, I'm okay using that. Okay, so now we get to the grand total. What is my personal budget for my turtle to run the turtle tank for a year? This is food, energy, water, decorations, and equipment maintenance, I guess we'll call it. So with food, I forget what I initially said. Let's just say $40 for food. And I'm going to add this here on my calculator here. I spend $40 a year for food. Energy. We did all the calculations, and for me, it came out to $50 for that. Water. I spend $30 a year for water and water maintenance. Why am I holding it like this? Usually I do 4 like this. 4, decorations. $50 budgeted for decorations. And then finally, number 5, equipment maintenance. let's set aside $50 for that, which you may or may not spend. It kind of just depends. It's just put it in the budget so you know if you're gonna need that. Okay, so what is our grand total number? We've got 40 for food, 50 for electricity, 30 for water, 50 for decor, 50 for equipment maintenance, and 30 for treats. And what is that equal to? Grand total, $250 running cost for the turtle. Now again, this estimate is high because admittedly, I don't think I do spend that much on food. Now if that sounds high and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, $250 to run my turtle tank. How do you spend that much? Well, let's go ahead and make that number a little smaller. Let's see how much does it cost per month to run your turtle tank. How many months are in a year? 12. So we'll divide 250 by 12 is $20 a month. $20 a month doesn't really seem that bad. In case you want that number to be smaller, we'll take that number and divide it by how many days are in a month. Let's say 30. 69 cents, folks. 69 cents to run your turtle tank per day. If you figure that a lot of people spend $3 to $4 on a coffee every day, 69 cents is really not that much. Yes, it costs money to run your turtle tank, but in the scheme of things, it's really not that much. And I guess the point of this exercise is just kind of so that you now have the tools to find out how much does it cost to run a turtle tank, and you can kind of get an idea from my grand total, how much it costs to run my turtle tank with the setup that I have here. I hope this video was helpful and informative. I know that there was a lot of numbers and math, so if you enjoyed that, hit a thumbs up. And if you didn't enjoy that, I'm sorry, but I hope it was still helpful, and if that was the case, hit the thumbs up as well. Subscribe if you haven't already. Huge shout out to my patrons who help me with those numbers, who support me on Patreon so that I can pay for the running costs of my turtle tank and also be able to create content like this for you guys. But yeah, all kinds of fun stuff on Patreon. Check that out if that sounds interesting. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to drop a thumbs up down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next Friday. Have a totally awesome day. Bye-bye.